Hi everybody, my name is Chantel Benjamin, and today what I would like to make with you is a wetland. So what you will need is some modeling clay. We will need two aluminum pans. Let's see here. Now they need to be different heights. You need a smaller one and you'll need a bigger one. This ruler is a bit hard to see, but the height of this smaller one is 2 inches, and the height of this bigger one is just slightly more. It's 2.5, but that was all I could find at the store because it's going to be sitting inside and it needs to be able to drip and drain into the bottom aluminum pan. You will need sponges. You'll need a Sharpie and a knife to cut holes in, and then just for extra measure, if you like, something to decorate your wetland with. And I have chosen some kinetic sand. I'm not sure if I'll use it or not, but here we go. What we're going to do is we're going to start out with how we're going to draw our wetland. So we're going to take our thin aluminum pan. We'll just put the other one to the side right now because we don't really need it. And we're just going to draw a circle at the bottom of the pan as to what we want our wetland to look like. I like circles, so I'm just going to draw a nice circle. Can you see it? So what we're going to do is we're going to take our sponge, and I want you to cut it so it fits in exactly half of this wetland. And as you can see, it fits in half of the wetland. Because our wetland is going to be drained as a way of draining, we're going to poke holes with our knife in the aluminum pan in the bottom of the wetland. Just like that. So our sponge will sit in one side of our wetland and not in the other. Now what we're going to do is we're going to build up the land surrounding the wetland. And we're going to use that using just some clay or Play-Doh. I found Play-Doh because it'll get a little bit hard at the end. And also that was all there was in the store. But there's also modeling clay that you can use. Because wetlands are at the bottom of an area, you want it to be at the lowest elevation in your pan. So you want to build your wetland up, or the land around your wetland up onto more of a hill. You want your modeling clay to cover that side of the sponge, and I will show you why later. So there's my wetland. Now it's a bit hard to tell, but it was very important to keep the gradient of this wetland sloping upwards as you got to the edge. That's the up part of the hill, and the wetland is the bottom part of the hill. So if this was a basin or a pool, the wetland would be at the bottom and these would be the sides. Now I'm going to try something. I'm going to take a little bit of my kinetic sand here. Just going to sprinkle it over top to add a little wetlandy color. Okay, and there we have it. And we're going to take our wetland and we're going to place it inside the deeper tin, and we're done. Okay, now that we have our wetland all made, this is where the fun part comes in. We're going to see how the wetland actually filters water before it enters into the ground system or the water systems. So what I've done is I have a bottle and I've poked holes in the bottom of it, and I have just some dirt or some soil that I've collected from outside, nothing too crazy. We're going to start with by just adding water to our bottle, and this is acting as our rain. So we're going to take our bottle of rain, we're going to pour it into the wetland, just like a rainstorm would happen. And this is why we wanted to keep that clay on top of your sponge. So pour it into the rain, and then we remove the top tin to reveal the water underneath. And as you can see, the water is quite clear. Just going to put that back in. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle a little bit of soil on this side of the wetland. And what we want is that soil to run off into our wetland. And I'm just going to put my spare sponge against the wetland to keep the experiment as true as we possibly can. So we'll pour some water into our rain bottle. And we're just going to let that water rain onto our wetland. See the soil running off? We'll give it a minute. Now, when we take that tray off, you can see the water dripping into our pan, and it's quite clear still. There's a few little sediments in there, but for the most part it's quite clear. Now we're just going to take that off, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to turn this around, and this time I'm going to sprinkle some soil onto the opposite side of the wetland where there isn't any sponge. We're going to take our rain, we're going to let it rain on it. Give it a minute to soak through. Remove our wetland, and if you can see all the dirt that's accumulated in the wetland. So the point is, the wetlands help filter any contaminants, sediments, things that run off the hills into the water system before it actually enters the aquifers underneath the ground. And the wetlands act as a filter. Thanks for watching.